Everyone in Silver Creek said the Black Stallion was a killer. They said he had crushed a man's ribs and tried to trample another. They said no one could touch him and live to tell the story. And everyone also knew Clara Vance was finished. A girl with a limp did not belong on a ranch. A woman who could not ride had no place in a saddle town. They were wrong about both. But no one knew how much pain it would take for them to save each other. The scar on Clara Vance's left leg ran from knee to ankle like a crooked road on a map. It was the mark of a night she could not forget. The crash on Route 9 had crushed metal and bone at the same time. It took her balance, her speed, and the future she had planned since she was a child. Rodeos were gone. Ribbons were gone. At 24, Clara was no longer the pride of Double V Ranch. She was the quiet waitress at the Silver Creek Diner, who smiled for customers and looked away when horse trailers rolled through town. Her father, Arthur Vance, still ran the ranch, though it was running him into the ground. Since Clara's mother died, Arthur had grown hard and silent. The drought had burned the pastures brown. The bank called every week. The Double V was bleeding money, and Arthur was out of time. On a cold Tuesday in late October, a cattle trailer rattled up the gravel drive. Clara sat on the porch, rubbing her aching leg as the damp air sank deep into the scar. She watched her father climb down from his truck. His shoulders sagged with tiredness. "What did you buy, Dad?" she called, reaching for her cane. "Please tell me it was not another problem." Arthur did not answer. He walked to the back of the trailer and pulled the latch. "I did not buy trouble," he said. "I bought a chance." The door swung open, and a sound tore through the air. It was not a whinny, it was a scream. A deep, raw sound filled with fear. A massive black stallion exploded out of the trailer, hooves striking the dirt like gunshots. He was tall and thick, his coat dark as spilled ink. Old scars cut across his body. His eyes rolled white with panic. Clara backed against the porch rail. "Dad, that horse is dangerous." Arthur fought the lead rope as the stallion reared, front legs slashing inches from his head. "His name is Titan," Arthur said. "Champion blood. If we can train him, he is worth more than this ranch." "He is going to kill you," Clara said, her heart pounding. Arthur forced Titan into the heavy braking pen. The horse slammed into the fence, wood cracking under the force. "Someone has to save this place," Arthur said quietly. "And you are not riding anymore." The words cut deeper than Arthur meant them to. Clara turned away, gripping her cane, the sounds of the horse crashing against the boards echoing behind her. The ranch became a battlefield. Arthur hired a trainer named Buck Miller, a man who bragged he could break any horse fast. Buck lasted 4 minutes. Clara watched from the kitchen window as Titan threw the man like a rag doll and turned on him with bared teeth. Buck escaped with broken ribs and terror in his eyes. "That horse hates people," Buck shouted as he limped away. "Put him down." That night, the ranch fell silent. Arthur drove Buck to the hospital. Clara lay awake, the image of Titan's eyes burned into her mind. They were not just angry, they were afraid. She knew that look. She saw it every day in the mirror. She pulled on her coat and limped to the barn. The night air smelled of pine and coming snow. Titan stood alone in the pen, shaking despite his size. Clara stayed outside the fence. She did not carry a rope or a saddle, only her cane. "You are hurting," she whispered. Titan snorted, stamping the dirt, ready to fight. "It is all right," she said softly, lowering herself to sit in the dirt. "I know what it feels like when they look at you and only see what is broken." She talked for a long time, about the crash, about the surgeries, about the man who promised to stay and did not. She told the horse things she had never told her father. "I am scared," she said. "I am scared I will never be more than this." When she stood to leave, Titan was no longer in the corner. He stood close to the fence, head lowered, watching her. He breathed out slowly, a cloud in the cold air. For the first time, he did not look like he wanted to destroy her. 3 days later, the bank arrived. Derek Thorne stepped out of a black SUV wearing a suit that did not belong on dirt roads. He spoke smoothly, offering sympathy and papers to sign. He wanted the land. The ranch was the last piece he needed. "I am not selling," Arthur said. Thorne laughed and looked at Titan pacing the pen. "You are betting everything on that animal. I will give you 10 days. When Thorne drove away, Arthur saddled up. He meant to ride Titan himself. It ended in disaster. Titan slammed Arthur into the fence and threw him hard into the dirt. Clara ran without thinking, screaming, waving her arms. Titan froze. He looked at Arthur. Then he looked at Clara. Instead of attacking, the stallion stepped forward and gently pushed her aside with his nose, placing himself between her and the fallen man. Arthur stared up from the dirt, breathless and stunned. "He chose you," he whispered. Clara stood shaking, tears falling, as the wild stallion stood guard at her side. After that day, nothing at Double V Ranch was the same. Arthur watched Titan differently now. He no longer saw only danger and money. He saw a mystery. And he saw the way the massive stallion tracked Clara's every move, his ears turning toward her voice, even when she stood across the yard. "I can't ride him," Clara said that night as she helped her father inside, his shoulder wrapped and aching. "I can barely climb the porch steps." Arthur sat heavily in his chair. "Then don't ride him," he said. "Train him your way. We don't have another choice." The clock was ticking. 10 days until the bank took everything. Clara began the next morning. She did not enter the pen with force. She brought time. She learned quickly what Titan feared. The clink of metal made his muscles lock tight. She switched buckles for leather ties. She noticed he panicked when approached from the right side, so she stayed on his left. She never raised her voice. She never rushed. Hour by hour, she limped circles around the pen, and Titan matched her pace. When she slowed, he slowed. When her leg trembled, he stopped. It was not training the way the books described. It was listening. By the 4th day, she could brush his neck without him flinching. By the 6th, she laid a saddle on his back. Titan stood still, breathing hard but trusting her hands. Arthur watched from the fence, silent, hope and fear fighting in his eyes. But the bank did not wait for hope. Derek Thorne returned with pressure and deadlines. He circled like a wolf, reminding Arthur that accidents raised insurance costs. That trainers got hurt. That land was worth more empty than alive. "You are gambling with your daughter's safety," Thorne said. Arthur said nothing, but the words stayed. On the 7th night, the sky broke open. Wind howled through the valley. Rain turned the dirt roads into rivers. Arthur drove into town for supplies and paperwork, promising to hurry back. Clara stayed behind, uneasy. The phone rang just after dark. There had been a slide on the mountain pass. A truck had gone off the road. They could not reach it. The wind grounded the helicopter. The sheriff's voice was tight with worry. "If your father is hurt, he won't last the night," he said. Clara looked at the storm tearing at the ranch. She looked at the barn. "I'm coming," she said. She hung up before anyone could stop her. Titan sensed the danger the moment she opened his stall. Thunder cracked overhead. He danced, nervous and alert. Clara fought the wind as she dragged the saddle out. Rain soaked her hair and clothes. Her hands shook as she lifted the saddle. Titan stood still. The stirrup was too high. Pain burned through her leg as she tried. She fell against Titan's side, gasping. "I can't," she cried. Titan turned his head and nudged her hard toward the mounting block. Then he lowered himself, dropping his shoulder just enough. He waited. Clara clenched her teeth. She thought of her father alone in the dark. She grabbed the saddle horn and pulled with everything she had. Pain exploded through her leg. But she was up. For the first time in 3 years, Clara Vance sat on a horse. Titan surged forward into the storm. They reached the sheriff's roadblock fast. Flashing lights cut through the rain. Titan sidestepped, tense, but he did not bolt. "The road is gone," the sheriff shouted. "You can't go down there." Clara did not answer. She leaned forward and pressed her calves into Titan's sides. The stallion leapt past the cruiser and slid down the muddy slope. The descent was terror. Mud gave way under hooves. Branches struck Clara's face. She leaned back and trusted him, even when fear screamed at her to pull the reins. At the bottom, floodwater rushed around a crumpled truck pinned against a tree. "Dad!" she screamed. Arthur was alive, barely. Blood streaked his face. The door would not open. Clara stayed in the saddle, knowing if she dismounted she would be lost. She broke the window. She tied the rope. The truck shifted as the mud moved. "Now!" she cried. Titan dug in. For one breathless moment, nothing happened. Then the stallion lunged with a roar. The suction broke. Arthur slid free into the water. Titan turned uphill, muscles screaming, dragging the weight behind him. He slipped once, twice, then powered forward, clawing his way back to the road. They crested the ridge just as help arrived. Arthur lived. Clara nearly passed out. As deputies rushed in, Titan turned his head and caught her jacket in his teeth, holding her upright until hands reached her. The sheriff stared in disbelief. "I've never seen a horse do that," he said. Clara faded into darkness with Titan still standing guard, rain steaming off his black coat like smoke. The miracle saved Arthur's life. But it did not save the ranch. 3 days later, Derek Thorne walked into the hospital with eviction papers. And this time, Clara did not look away. Derek Thorne stood at the foot of Arthur's hospital bed with a smile that didn't reach his eyes. He didn't bring flowers. He brought an eviction notice. The storm had barely cleared, but Thorne moved fast when land was involved. "The grace period is over," Thorne said as he tossed a stack of papers onto the blanket. "The double V is mine now. Everything on it is mine, too." Clara felt the air leave her chest. She tried to sit straighter in her wheelchair as Thorne turned toward her. "That includes the horse," he added. "A buyer in Dubai already offered me a fortune for him. Titan leaves today." Arthur's breath caught. Clara froze. "You can't take him," she said. Thorne turned at the door with a smirk. "Watch me." He left the room with the same calm arrogance he always carried, but this time Clara wasn't the broken girl he thought she was. She had ridden through a storm on a horse no one could touch. She had dragged her father out of a ravine with her own 2 hands. And she wasn't losing the only partner she had left. "Dad," Clara said, her voice low and steady, "give me the number for that buyer from Texas." Arthur blinked in surprise, then slowly reached for his phone. Back at the ranch, chaos spread through the yard. Thorne had arrived with hired hands in a livestock truck. Titan reared and twisted, terrified of the metal ramp. The men shouted and snapped ropes, trying to force him inside. "Sedate him if you have to!" Thorne shouted. "Get him loaded!" Quote. Titan slammed his hooves into the ground, refusing. He hated the scent of metal and fear. He fought like an animal who knew he was being taken away forever. The ranch gate suddenly swung open. A sleek silver Cadillac rolled up the drive. Behind it, a pickup pulled in with Clara in her wheelchair in the bed, her friend driving with urgency. Rain still clung to the edges of the world, and the dirt was thick and soft under the tires. Thorne spun around. "What is this? Who are you people?" A tall man stepped out of the Cadillac, walking with a cane. His voice was deep and calm. "My name is J.D. Sterling," he said. "You're trying to steal my horse." Thorne laughed, confused but irritated. "Your horse? That animal came from an auction with no brand. I have papers." J.D. Sterling ignored him. He walked to the fence and whistled a clear 2-note tune. Titan stopped fighting. His ears flicked, his muscles softened. Then he trotted straight to the fence and nuzzled Sterling's hand like he'd known him all his life. "This isn't some nameless stallion," Sterling said. "This is Midnight's Fury. He was stolen from my ranch in Texas 4 years ago." Thorne's face turned red. "That's impossible." "Check for a microchip," Sterling said. The sheriff, who had arrived after Clara tipped him off, stepped forward and scanned Titan's flank. The scanner beeped. "It's a match," the sheriff said. The men around Titan backed away. Thorne stammered. "But the debt. Arthur owes the bank." "I'm buying the note," Sterling said, ripping a check from his book and shoving it into Thorne's chest. "Full price. The ranch belongs to the Vance family again, and Titan stays here." Camera crews, also called in by Clara, caught every second. Thorne didn't say another word. He got in his SUV and peeled out of the driveway, leaving only dust and humiliation behind. Clara watched him go, her heart pounding. She felt Titan's warm breath on her shoulder. When Sterling opened the gate, he didn't reach for the lead rope. "He was stolen from me," Sterling said. "But he wasn't waiting for me. He was waiting for a partner. And I think we both know who that is." Quote. Clara stared at the stallion. "He's yours, isn't he?" "He was never mine," Sterling said softly. "He's home." Titan stepped toward Clara and lowered his head until his forehead touched hers. She closed her eyes. She didn't feel broken. She didn't feel weak. For the first time since the accident, she felt whole. 6 months later, the sun shone bright over the arena at Cheyenne Frontier Days. The stands were full. Flags waved. The announcer's voice boomed across the grounds as Clara rode into the ring on the black stallion who had once terrified the whole valley. Her leg was braced but strong. Her back was straight. Titan moved like a force of nature beneath her, smooth as smoke and powerful as thunder. They didn't take first place that day. But when Clara halted Titan in the center of the arena and he bowed before the cheering crowd, people rose to their feet. They weren't witnessing a trick. They were witnessing a story of survival. A broken girl, a broken horse, both saved by the moment they chose each other. And Clara knew deep in her heart that this was only the beginning of the ride ahead.